Good? All right. I'm going to try not to take up the full 5. And I'm not going to give just kind of a brief overview of the course for IB Econ. I think you're all capable of plugging in questions to Google to address that. The one recommendation I would give is there was a fairly significant curriculum update that was done. So if you're Googling IB Economics, just make sure you're on that 2020 curriculum update, all right? So really, I just want to kind of address some of the misconceptions that students often have about econ, and kind of just address 2 that I see here on this campus in particular. So one, it's not a business studies course, right? A lot of students here at RAS are interested in IB Economics because they think that there is some overlap or that there's quite a bit of business components in the curriculum, and it's not. In fact, there's not much overlap at all right? So much so that IB does have its own business studies course that it offers in both SL, HL. A couple of students a few years ago, I know, took it through Promoja, the online, because they wanted the business studies. The second kind of misconception, which is more about the way the curriculum is set up, a lot of students here, and I think it's a good thing, we come into economics thinking that we're going to learn a lot about economic crises, what causes depressions and recessions. I think many of us come out of O'Malley's history class with an interest in econ for that purpose. And unfortunately, you're not going to get much of that in IB Econ either, right? It's much more abstract, more theoretical, more looking at economic models than anything else. So it's a lot of diagrams, even for the SL. The main distinction between SL and HL, I'd say there's just much more maths in the HL section of the curriculum, all right? So I kind of wanted to leave the remaining time to do any kind of Q&A, little Q&A session. If you have any questions that I can address now. Yeah?
So basically, like, what are you studying? Just to like be clear.
Well, it's broken down into different segments. So you have microeconomics, which is primarily going to focus on the production and consumption of individuals. We have macroeconomics as a section which deals more on the economy as a whole. And then with the updated curriculum, they have this thing called the global economy or global economics, which deals primarily with international trade and development. And I think those who are interested more in maybe the political aspect of economic theory, it's that last section, that global economics, that at least gives you some introduction to what the relationship between politics, maybe a little bit of history, and economics is. But for the most part, in the curriculum, they really isolate the economics from any of the political, social, cultural, historical context, which is a shame, but it's the way it is.
You guys talk about like for example, like how like the internet is like it impacts the economy and stuff like that?
A bit, but it's going to be more framed around like technological innovation and some of the impact that's going to have on markets. But again, I would say anything dealing with like social media, internet, that's falling more within that business studies component, right? How does that change marketing? How does that change brands and so on, right? Advertisement, that's more business studies related. So you're not going to find a big tech emphasis in the curriculum.
So is it more like analyzing graphs and like changes? And
Exactly. A lot of it deals with the models, and again, it's very theoretical, all assumptions based, but primarily what you're focusing on and what you're analyzing is economic diagrams and models, and then how certain situations are going to change what that model is going to look like. If you have any other questions, look, I have you guys every other week in the morning. Just address me directly during that time, or of course cjones@ras.ma will get you my email as well. Are we good?
thank you.
All right. The second for today is going to be the theory of knowledge. Now look, this is a course that's required for all RAS students, so it doesn't matter what pathways you're on, if you're a DP student or not. As a graduation requirement, you have to take TOK. There's no other option. It's the first school I've been at, IB school, where we have it as a graduation requirement, which I agree with. I think it's a course that really should be pushed down even to the elementary. Again, I'm not going to get into the components of it. I'll take your questions. But in essence, and IB would kind of tend to disagree with me on this, but in essence, it is a philosophy course, right? Again, if you're Googling anything, it went through a significant curriculum change this year. So just make sure if you're looking up anything, you're focusing on that 2020 updated curriculum. A lot of the changes that were made to the curriculum, I think, are really good. It has more of a political emphasis that was, I think, lacking in the previous curriculum. So if you like more of the political theory, discussing more of the current events in a more abstract theoretical way, I think you'll do well in TOK. Yeah.
Are any of the ideas in this course like meta kind of?
Meta. I'm always suspicious of this meta, especially in education. We love to use this word meta, like metacognition, and that's thinking about thinking, which is not really meta, but meta in what sense? Like, are you referring to like metaphysics as like a discipline of study? You're talking about like metacognition?
Like, I don't know, like asking big things, like big questions.
Yes and no. So if you're referring to meta as something like what is the meaning of life?
Yes.
Is there a God?
Yes.
What is the essence of being? No. If that's what you're referring to, you're not going to get that philosophical, that abstract. And I think this is why IB draws a line, and they have a philosophy course and they have a TOK course, because I think in the philosophy course they address more of those larger metaphysical questions, right? I think you're free to explore those and kind of discuss aspects of those in TOK, but it's dealing more with kind of more foundational questions about what you know, how you know it. Right? When we say that we actually know something, how is it with any kind of certainty we can express what we know with some confidence? Yeah?
So I told you that there's no more presentation.
Part of the curriculum change is yeah, you're right. There's no longer the IA has changed completely. There's still a 1,600 word TOK essay that you'll need to do. That's fair. That's pretty much the same. One of the changes that I really agree with is the TOK presentation. I just thought giving you guys just 10 minutes, and if you look at the assessment criteria, it's nearly an impossible task. It's a little bit more nuanced, a little bit more complicated, but you have this TOK expedition where you select these objects, you put them into a context, and you discuss what that is, given this prompt. So much more direction, but I think it's much fairer to you as a student to actually achieve what they're asking you to achieve.
What's an impossible?
So in IB, you have these assessment criteria, these rubrics. And if you look at all the tasks that you're required to do, right, let's say just to get an A or a 7 on the presentation, if you look at the time restriction, so if you went as an individual for the presentation, IB would only allow you to present for 10 minutes. And as I saw it, 10 minutes was not nearly enough time to do all of the things that you needed to do in the criteria. And so students tend to overcompensate. They talk really, really fast because they're trying to get out as much of analysis as possible to cram it into that 10-minute window. And I think it kind of took away from a little bit more of the like organic, kind of authentic something a little bit more meaningful.
So that was removed?
That's gone.
They just try to rush through it.
Yeah, look, and I'm sympathetic, right? I mean, if I was a student, I'd be doing the same thing. You're going to give me 10 minutes to do 15 minutes worth of presentation? Well, I'm going to cram a 15-minute presentation into 10 minutes. Yeah. But that's moot because they've completely changed it, and I think they've actually given you a task which you can actually do. So, good for IB, yeah. Any other questions? Again, reach out to me. I'm with you guys on a fairly regular basis anyway, so if you kind of think of any questions, don't hesitate. Good? All right, people. Thanks for your time. Trying to make up some of the times, you know.
Sorry?
I said I tried to make up